Hey everybody, it's Ron, and I want to tell you a story about business and how that story changed everything. There just weren't enough chairs. Inside Ralph Hay's Hupmobile dealership in Canton, Ohio, on the evening of September 17, 1920, more men had shown up than the car showroom could comfortably hold. Team owners and managers from across 4 states all crowded in among the cars Hay was actually supposed to be selling. Some of the men gave up on finding a seat entirely and perched instead on running boards of the Hupmobiles parked on the floor, a few leaning against the hoods to steady the paperwork they were about to sign. By the end of that crowded night, this loose gathering of 10 teams had a new name, the American Professional Football Association, and a decision that mattered more than anyone in that room could have known. They needed a president, someone whose name alone could make newspapers and fans take a scattered, financially desperate sport seriously. They elected Jim Thorpe, the 2-time Olympic gold medalist and the most famous athlete in the country at the time, not because they knew how to run a league, but because everyone already knew his name. It felt that night like the beginning of something. It wasn't. The real beginning had already happened, almost a month earlier in that same showroom, with a fraction of the people and none of the fanfare. So what does it take to actually convince competitors to stop competing against each other? What does a nearly bankrupt car dealer understand about football that the players themselves didn't? And how much did a smaller, much quieter meeting on August 20th, 1920 in this exact same room end up mattering just as much as the crowded, famous one that followed it? From Business Basics, I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast where we explain the stories that changed business forever. Every date on the calendar has a story where business reshaped the world. Today, August 20th, that story takes us to 1920. Not enough chairs to grow into. I know I use this word a lot in this series, but professional football in the summer of 1920 was, by almost every measure, a mess. There were no shared rules between teams, no standard contracts, and no consequences for a team simply offering a rival's best player more money mid-season and walking away with him. Worse, it was an open secret that teams were quietly using college players who still had remaining eligibility, risking those young men's entire college careers for a single paid game nobody was supposed to know about. Ralph Hay understood the problem better than most because he was living it. Hay owned the Canton Bulldogs, the strongest team in what was loosely called the Ohio League. He also ran his own successful car dealership, selling Hupmobiles and Pierce Arrows in Canton, Ohio alongside that. Despite fielding a genuinely great football team, he was losing money, since escalating salaries were climbing faster than ticket sales could ever cover them. On August 20th, 1920, Hay brought together representatives from just 3 Ohio teams, the Akron Pros, the Dayton Triangles, and Cleveland's club, inside his own showroom. It was a small, almost tentative gathering. The 4 teams agreed to basic ground rules meant to stop the bleeding, a cap on salaries, a promise not to poach players already under contract elsewhere, and an end to using college players still enrolled in school. They gave themselves a placeholder name, the American Professional Football Conference, with no real sense yet that they were founding anything that would outlive a single season. Hay left that first meeting with a new title, secretary, and an unglamorous job to match it. Over the following weeks, he wrote letters to every serious professional football team he could track down across the Midwest, inviting them to a second, larger meeting back at his showroom. This is the actual mechanism worth naming plainly. A handful of competing businesses were choosing to voluntarily limit their own competition against each other, because unrestricted competition for players was actively destroying every one of them financially, one team at a time. The response for that second meeting exceeded what Hay could have planned for, as we mentioned in the opening. On September 17th that same year, more than 10 teams sent representatives back to that same Canton showroom, filling it well past capacity. It wasn't always quiet, calm discussion that night, but the group worked through many of the questions and issues, including renaming itself the American Professional Football Association. Oh, they also instituted a $100 fee for any team wanting to join the association. Then came the decision that gave the whole venture instant credibility. They elected Jim Thorpe as its first president. Now, as I mentioned, Thorpe wasn't chosen for his administrative skill. He was, by his own teammates' account, more figurehead than organizer. He was chosen because his name, as a two-time Olympic gold medalist, carried weight no unknown team owner's name ever could. Quite simply, Thorpe was the ultimate athlete, winning and receiving awards in everything from track and field to football to even ballroom dancing. The league's early years were genuinely chaotic. Teams folded mid-season for lack of money. Thorpe served largely as a symbolic president, while the real organizational work fell to others. And that original $100 franchise fee bought a stake in something nobody involved could have valued accurately at the time. 2 years later, in 1922, the league renamed itself once more, becoming the National Football League, and slowly built the standardized structure, shared scheduling, enforced contracts, territorial rights that its founders had only sketched out that first night in Canton. Here's a detail worth sitting with. The car brand that hosted the NFL's founding meeting didn't survive nearly as long as the league it helped birth. Hupmobile had built a real, respected reputation for affordable, reliable cars for nearly 2 decades, but abandoned that affordable base, chasing a pricier market right as the Depression hit, and ended up collapsing entirely by 1940, while the NFL went on to become the most valuable sports league on earth. Its franchises now worth billions of dollars apiece, built on the exact same instinct for restraint that the company hosting its birth never managed to learn. The showroom where those men met is gone now. The cars are gone and probably worth a fortune if you can find one. But the standardized structure a handful of broke, worried team owners cobbled together in a room with too few chairs, exactly because they understood what unrestrained competition does to an industry, is today worth tens of billions of dollars, precisely because it did what the car company parked inside that same room never managed to do. I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the podcast that finds the turning points behind the headlines. To hear more stories like this, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. And if you're enjoying the stories, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more people find the story behind the business. And if you want to actually understand business better without the fluff, the buzzwords, or the MBA language, start by visiting businessdailypodcast.com.